Hello guys, my name is Hugo, welcome to my channel. I'm Los Angeles based DP, and on my channel I make videos about filmmaking tips, about lighting techniques, about using some of my gear, reviewing gear. Here today I want to talk about the DZO lenses. Those are really nice Cine zooms, they called Picture Zooms by DZO, and I bought them about 2 months ago because I wanted to have something not expensive, but still versatile. I wanted to have zooms because I shoot a lot of interviews, I shoot a lot of stuff that you need to be flexible, you need to be quick. I was looking for lenses, and I used to have Angenieux zooms. They're incredible lenses, but they were sometimes too expensive for those kind of projects, like when you do interviews or some small commercials or corporate stuff. Not every client could afford them, and I was looking for something cheaper, more affordable, but at the same time to be zoom and really good glass. So I've seen these lenses on YouTube for long, and I quite honestly did not believe in them, let's say it this way, and I didn't even have interest to test them or anything. But a few of my friends picked them up and they actually really like them, and they told me that I have to look into it. So I started looking into videos, and I noticed that many videos on YouTube, they say that it's such a great glass. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna try it myself. So I bought this set, and this set comes with this nice case. It has really nice cutout layout. It comes with the PL and EF mounts. It comes with the screws. It comes with some shims, support base. It even comes with the small case for shims, which is really nice. So, a lot of attention to these details, and I really appreciate it. And from the moment you pick up this lens, you can tell right away it's such a great build. The build quality is really impressive, considering that it is a Chinese company and it's not expensive lens. I mean, if you think about it, you basically get in a lens for 2,500 roughly, and there are many steel glass on the market that are within the same price range. So I don't consider this expensive glass, considering that it is a Cine glass, and it's really is Cine glass, and I'll explain you why. It has the metal housing and it has very, very nice mechanics. If you feel like rotation of the focus throw, that's the zoom, the aperture, it's just so nice and so smooth. And I mean, I've used many different kind of lenses, and I used very high-end, super expensive lenses, and I want to say the mechanic of these lenses is just as good, and that surprises me. Also, it has this little knob. It's basically a little stick that you use to zoom in and zoom out, and I really like the stick, and I received many compliments from my camera operators that I work with, that when they use that, it's just so nice, because you can get this smooth, nice rotation, which I really like too. So the lenses are Super 35, and yes, you can't use them on the full frame. I tried it and it doesn't cover the full frame. So if you are using only full frame cameras, it's not gonna be a good option for you. Most of my cameras I use are Super 35. I have 3 Komodos, and I have a weapon, and their sensors are a little bit bigger than Super 35. I would say the sensor size is somewhere in between full frame and Super 35. And these lenses are capable of covering this sensor on RED. Regardless, it's bigger than Super 35, it still covers them. But I tried them to put them on the large frame format cameras, and it doesn't cover. It has huge vignetting, and you don't want to use them. Both lenses, they are parafocal, which means the focus stays on the same spot if you zoom in or zoom out. It doesn't go in. You just have to make sure it's calibrated well. And when you change mount from EF to PL mount, you just have to put the lens on a chart and just make sure that you have enough shims for the back focus. Quite intimidating process by the way it sounds, but it's actually pretty easy. You just put camera on one before the chart, and if you don't have a chart, you can print chart, or you can use like a newspaper or anything with a small texture in it. You just put your camera on a distance, I think it's 1.5 meters, and you just shim it in a way so everything is in focus. Sounded intimidating at first, but when I tried it and did it once, it's actually nothing special, so you can do it by yourself easily. What else can I talk about? So both lenses, they open to 2.8. 2.8, quite honestly, for most of my projects, it's more than enough. Usually I even close them a little bit, but 2.8 is enough. Focal range. So they basically go from 20 to 55 and 50 to 125. So you may say, okay, you don't have a wide angle. And yeah, for many people, depends on what kind of projects they do, it may be a big downside and no go. But for most projects that I do and where I use those lenses, which are usually, as I said, corporate interviews, social media content sometimes, small commercials, low budget music videos and all that, the range is just great. And mostly for like probably the most frequent use of those lenses is going to be interviews, and for the interviews it's just great. So usually this one goes on the A camera, where you can set from 20 to 55, which is going to be your straight on shot, and this goes on the side on the B cam, which is 50 to 125, and usually it stays somewhere like 100, and it's just perfect focal length. And I really do like them. Also, they color match, they look identical. There is no color shift or anything. From a downsides, I would say it's probably the biggest downside is they have, I mean, I can't even call this a downside because they have distortions. And they're not clean lenses by any means. You know, on the market right now, all these new lenses, they usually are very clean lenses. And sometimes they too clinical, you know, and they don't have any character or anything, you know. And what surprised me most about this lens is that these lenses didn't even try to go this clean route. They very much on artist side, and the way they look, they for instance, they're not sharp, and I can't call it a downside. You know, for some people maybe it's a downside, but for me it's not a downside, because right now sensors are so sharp, cameras are so sharp. We use some diffusion filters, like we use Blackmagic, or we use a Promise or something, you know, to diffuse, to get rid of this digital edge. And with these lenses, you don't really have to use it, because without any diffusion, it's already looks a little bit diffused. The skin tones are very nice. It has very nice blooming highlights. It has very, very nice focus fall off. It's very, very forgiving on the focus puller when you don't get in focus, because it's so smooth going. And it's probably because this lens has 16 blades of iris, which is pretty impressive, because many of super expensive lenses, even my anamorphic lenses, Atlas Orion, they have only 14 blades, and this one has 16. And because of those 16 lenses, the bokeh on these lenses is just so smooth. I mean, it's really even hard for me to pick a lens that has as smooth bokeh as these lenses. I would say first what that comes on my mind is signature prime, because signature primes, they are famous by being super soft fall off, super smooth bokeh. So it may sound ridiculous, but the bokeh on these lenses looks very much like on signature primes. And the other lens, maybe like a Panavision Prime, also looks really soft bokeh. So I don't know. The bokeh, anyways, the bokeh on these lenses is just incredible, and it's very rounded because of so many blades. It's very rounded. It's very nice shape, and interesting that also this lens has distortion, which many say it's a big downside, but for me it wasn't actually a downside, because in a way some projects I actually like distortion. And that's what's interesting about this distortion, that if you look at the glass, you can see that the spherical element is actually going inside, and most of the lenses, they go outside. So this one goes inside, and because of that you get those distortion that go inside of the frame. And that's very interesting choice, because Panavision lenses, Panavision anamorphic lenses, they famous by having distortion inside, and that's interesting. And probably in a way, what's cool about distortion inside, because they make bodies and faces skinnier. So with these lenses you can actually make people a little bit prettier, you know. It's a tiny bit, but it's still there. And the focus fall off on the side, it goes softer, so this the image on the center is sharper, and it goes smoothly on the side, it goes. So interesting. It's a spherical lens, but in a way sometimes the characteristics of this lens look like it's an anamorphic lens, which kind of ridiculous, but it looks really nice. It is a really beautiful glass. And I would say that's not a glass that would work for every project. I would say there are some projects that you don't want to use this glass, you want something clean. Like for instance, I had a project where it was a product shot commercial, and I tried to use those lenses, and I felt that in some ways the distortion was so severe that in some points I saw that lines were actually bending pretty well. And maybe it was for my eyes, because my clients didn't say anything, they were happy with the image and everything. But I felt like if there was a client who would be more pickier than that, they would probably say something about it. And therefore I think you have to be thoughtful about what you're using, because sometimes maybe it's not the right look for the project you do. But quite honestly, for most other projects it worked really well, mostly for interviews. Probably if you shoot a lot of documentaries, it's going to be great, beautiful lens. And even like size wise, if you look at it, it's not a big lens. I mean, it's a little bit heavy, but considering that it is a metal housing and the elements are huge, you can see the elements, you can tell right away because of the side of the element, it's not a rehoused glass. It's not like they got old glass and decided to rehouse it. Not, you can tell this glass was designed for this lens, so it's not a rehoused lens. It's a beautiful lens. And yeah, so to summarize everything, I think it's an incredible lens, and considering the price, it's hard to beat. It's not a perfect lens. It may not work for every single project you do, but for some project it can make your image look very interesting. And I find myself liking the images from this lens very much. And this video isn't sponsored by them. They didn't send me this lens. I paid my money for this lens, and I just simply wanted to share my experience with this beautiful glass. And I think if you consider this lens, you definitely have to give it a try, you know. Try rent it and see how it goes for you. So I hope this information was useful for you. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.